Over a year ago, we witnessed one of the greatest guards in Jiu-Jitsu history from the Australian Levi Jones-Leary. He beat multiple world champions including Taira Ruotolo, Roberto Jimenez, and Hulk. During this run, there wasn't really a single time in any match, including the final with Cade, where he looked close to getting his guard passed. This is due to how effective his guard retention is. Now, guard retention is one of the hardest aspects of Jiu-Jitsu to master. However, if you follow Levi's methods and system, you too can make your guard impossible to pass. I have bought Levi's Patreon and watched his no-gi guard retention instructional, then spent the last few months analysing every Levi match from his debut to now, to see his retention teachings be put into practice. In this video, we're going to go over the 6 main concepts Levi uses to have the most unpassable, efficient, dangerous guard. Concept number 1. The importance of the top knee. If you've ever done a class on escaping side control, you'll have been taught the knee-elbow escape, getting your bottom knee and elbow connected to escape side control. Therefore, when people retain guard, they believe to prevent a pass, the important knee to keep close to your chest is the bottom one. However, if we keep this one close and neglect the top knee, we give our opponent a lot of space to work in for tight waists, get underhooks, and pass chest to chest, which will then give them the control to flatten you out and beat the bottom knee, which you work so hard to keep connected to your elbow. So whenever Levi is on a hip, he keeps his top knee as close to his chest as possible by just pulling it in. He doesn't self-frame at all either. Guard players like Diego Pato will use a self-frame to pull this in. It's not wrong. Pulling your knee in like this requires flexibility, but we'll get onto why Levi doesn't self-frame in the next concept. You'll notice how Levi feels okay giving up this space. Cade here sends a knee cut, beating the space between his elbow and his bottom knee. However, Levi uses his top knee to create distance to bring his bottom knee back in and get back to his guard. In this scenario, Cade even has the bottom wrist pinned, but due to the top knee, Cade can't close the space to get chest to chest and resets. In this example, Cade even gets really deep on this pass attempt, but even just slightly having the top knee in gives Levi just enough time to pummel his bottom leg back in. Now let's look at concept number 2. Concept number 2. Keep your knees close to your chest and your head and shoulders in between your knees. Why? To prevent 2 things. Firstly, if your legs begin passing across your center line, there are smash pass options. But secondly, it makes flanking much easier. Let's look at an example of this. You'll see here Joseph is moving side to side against Tommy Langacker, who is, to note, incredibly flexible. As Joseph takes this ankle grip to begin moving to the other side, Tommy's shoulders are outside his knees and have passed across his center line. This in turn forces Tommy's hips to face away slightly more, meaning he has more distance to cover as he tries to turn back to face Joseph to recover his guard. In this scenario, Joseph gets very close to passing. Now notice the difference with Levi. We're in the exact same scenarios with Tommy. Joseph has a top ankle grip and is preparing to flank. However, as Levi is super disciplined with keeping his head and shoulders in between his legs, when Joseph tries to pass the ankle across to flank, it's weak, as Levi's elbow works as a self-frame on his leg. He can also frame with this same arm, to maintain distance long enough to get both legs back in. If we had our hands self-framing our knee like we spoke about earlier, we could compromise this head and shoulders rule, as we would have no elbow on the inside, making smashing the legs together potentially viable. We also wouldn't have that same hand to frame to manage distance. It requires flexibility, but this is why Lachlan and Levi stress the importance of it so much.
Outside of actually training and developing your jiu-jitsu skills, if there's one thing I think that can improve you the most, it would be, for a lot of people, stretching. If
you want a science-based stretching routine similar to what Levi and Lachlan do, follow the link below for one I created that is designed for jiu-jitsu and improving your guard. So, this head, shoulders and knees rule is all well and good, but if Joseph really cut a strong flank to the side, how would Levi turn to face him? This brings us on to concept number 3. Concept number 3. Don't shrimp to turn, use an elbow post. Shrimping is a fundamental jiu-jitsu movement that is taught to all beginners, but in the world of open guard retention, it can be a hindrance. Why is this? As our opponent flanks and turns our hips away, if we use a foot on the floor to hip escape or shrimp, as we go to face our opponent, 2 things can happen. Number 1, we open up a lot of space by our now top hip, allowing your opponent to take cross scoop grip counters like Dorian does here, or get a deep grip on the hip and threaten these hip and knee post passes. Secondly, we break concept number 1. If we use our foot to face, we no longer have our top knee close to our chest. So when we elbow post, it allows us to switch our hips, keeping our knee close to our chest. And we can keep our other arm stiff arm framing to maintain distance, which allows us to prevent other forms of outside passing. It's a small change, but posting our foot can have dire consequences. Now, if you've ever wondered how Levi's opponents never get to north-south, then listen to concept number 4. Concept number 4. Never tolerate north-south. Levi's coach Lachlan Giles went into his match with Cade Ruotolo with the idea of fighting from this position, to attack with K-guard and even this reverse choi bar. However, we all know in hindsight that didn't work for him. Levi has a different approach. He'll aim to never let them get there in the first place. Which is easier said than done, so how does he do this? With these 3 steps. Number 1, framing the elbows. Usually Levi's opponents will try to take double shin grips and walk around to north-south due to the fact that they don't want to engage his guard. As the elbows are the closest thing to frame in this scenario, he'll fully straighten his arms to push off of them. If the knees or legs were closer though, you would frame on them, as we always want to frame the body part that is trying to close the distance to pass. Framing also allows us to facilitate the next step. Step number 2. Misaligning your head from their center line. To fully control north-south, your opponent needs your head in between their legs. If the head is ever out of alignment, it makes it incredibly hard for them to control you, as your shoulders aren't pinned to the mat. What they would need now is head control, usually via a crossface and an underhook, or to get the guard player's head back between their legs again. So what you'll see Levi do is always have his head off center like he did here against Tai. Usually the passer grips the shins hard when passing, creating a lot of tension in their arms. This tension gives Levi's frame sustenance to push off of, giving him the ability to move his head off the center line. Finally, when it's off center, he's just looking to get his foot to either armpit. You can either do this by popping the grip off your shin first and recovering, or just bringing it across to the hip. These hooks will allow you to square back up again to a neutral open guard, or go into counterattacks, usually in the form of entering the legs with K-guard. So, we spent a lot of time looking at how he defends, but we can't defend forever, which leads us on to the next concept. Concept number 5. When to attack. If we stay retaining forever, even with perfect retention, we will eventually get tired, make a mistake, and get passed or subbed. Therefore, the second we defend back to a neutral position, we want to attack, to stop these defensive cycles continuing over and over again. Levi has done this with his retention from north-south to attack the legs, but his main cue is this. You are looking to get your top foot framing against the shoulders, or your bottom foot framing the hip. The second you get either one of these frames in place, we need to swap from defending in the form of pushing and framing, to attacking in the form of connecting and pulling. This is the cue he uses. Levi often locks his elbows to frame when his feet are not facing the hips or shoulders. The second he gets a foot to either the shoulder or the hip, he swaps from pushing to pulling. If his foot goes to the hip, it usually means the legs are close enough to grab. If the foot goes to the shoulder, it often means the legs are too far away to connect to. So instead, attacking the arms is more efficient. In this example, you'll see Levi frame with locked elbows when his feet aren't facing his opponent. The second he gets a foot to the hip, Levi has the cue he can now begin pulling. He does this by grabbing the ankle, pulling into reverse De La Riva, then K-guard, then doing this beautiful back take on Joseph. Again, Levi is framing against Hulk. In this example, he gets his top foot to the hip instead, giving him the cue it's time to start pulling into an attack. Here he uses this reverse row drag to set up the choi bar. Because Hulk is hunkering down to prevent Levi attacking the armbar, he extracts his bottom leg and back steps to take the back. All of our concepts so far have been what to do when we are on our back, but when would Levi swap to a seated guard? Also, how and why would he do it? This brings us on to the final concept. Concept number 6. Playing on our back is a bad idea when we don't have connection. This is because your opponent will just flank continuously until they set up a deep pass attempt, or force you to be tired. So we need to sit up whenever there's enough distance for us to safely do it. However, we don't just rock or use our hands to facilitate this movement. If we do, we open up space by our elbows, allowing our opponents to shoot body locks, get chest to chest, and eventually pass. So what does Levi do to prevent this and manage distance? He uses a foot frame. This maintains distance as he sits up, preventing his opponent from being able to establish any meaningful grips and set up their passes. You'll see this happen in every match of his multiple times. This particularly happened a lot in his final with Cade. These are the concepts Levi uses to make the most difficult part of Jiu-Jitsu look easy. And if you follow these steps, you can also have an unpassable guard. But probably get robbed in the final, as the crowd probably won't be on your side for being a butt scooter. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, I do short form analysis on my Instagram channel. You can follow me here. Hit subscribe so you don't miss future analysis videos just like this. Also, be sure to check out Levi's Patreon and any instructional content. I'll leave the link for these in the description of the video. Finally, for a discount on the Outlier database, use code ROB at checkout.